Hello, Bridget, and I'm making this film um, to get off my chest what I feel about what happened the other day. And I think it's very important that I say this, and this is probably the best way of me doing it. As I am alone, I find it easier to talk. And this is why I'm doing this. I don't know how else best to do this, but then let's do it like this. I'll be recorded, and you'll be able to watch it at your leisure. I'm not very computer savvy. In fact, the other day I had to go and get somebody to help me sort out my laptop because it's getting a bit full. That's how savvy I am. No, I don't want to go on some computer calls. That's not the point of this. I'm just pointing out that I don't know how to get to make this in any other way. On Tuesday, as you know, and as I've made abundantly clear to a lot of people, I went missing. I haven't gone missing now since November. It's not something I plan on doing. It's not something I like doing. But it happened back in November, and it happened again on Tuesday. If I can, I will try and do things which will keep me well and keep me healthy. So like for a walk or painting, listening to music, things that bring on the good chemicals in my brain. As I understand my condition, it's all about good and bad chemicals. And doing things like painting brings on those good chemicals out of my brain. Being in a threatening situation, and for many people, they won't see that as being threatening, but basically, as I've understood it, and you probably know this as well, people who are on the autistic spectrum, probably the reason why they find going to nightclubs and to other venues to be difficult is because they're noisy, crowded, environments where you don't know who's there, and all of the things. Now, I'd call that threatening. It's not a threatening environment, but it triggers off that sense of fight. What is it? Flight or flight? Fight. I can't speak. The fight or flight syndrome. And when that happens, you're either going to do one of two things. You're either going to fight or you're going to flee for it. And that is what I would consider to be a threatening situation. It's not threatening in the sense that, it's not a war zone. It's not, there's not some masked gunman running around outside shooting at people. But nevertheless, it's threatening because it triggers off that response. And that probably happens to all human beings, not just to people who've got autism. But for me, that was a threatening situation on Tuesday. It may not have been intended to be one, and in my rational sense, you know, you know, now, because I'm back in the rational mind, I know it's not threatening. But in that situation, when my brain is changing, and this is what people don't understand, I had to explain this to the police as best as I could on Tuesday, late Tuesday evening, going into Wednesday. And probably I didn't do a good job of that. But I had stopped thinking, I can feel the change coming on me. Whether I'm going to have a meltdown or whether I'm going to have a panic attack or I'm going to go into some sort of shutdown mode, which I think is the common one for people who are on the autistic spectrum, I can actually feel it changing. I can feel that I'm slowly starting to go from how I am right now, which is my normal state, to changing, just like the Incredible Hulk. But, perhaps not in the same sort of way, but you know what I mean. And when you're in what your brain perceives to be a threatening situation, that's what happens. In November, when I went missing, I briefly saw a social worker. She told me this story. Right. She used to look after a severely autistic lady, or somebody quite, high up on the spectrum. Story about how on one occasion, noise is a big thing with autism. Just like somebody who has, because I went out with somebody who had this, somebody who, I can't remember what it's called, somebody who's sensitive to light, flashing light, or I'll probably remember it afterwards. It doesn't matter, but you get the picture. That and light can affect me as well, just like other sensory issues. Which is why sometimes I've been known to wear sunglasses even when it's not sunny. I don't do that all the time, but it's a reason why I do that. Maybe it's even the reason why I wear a hat, because it sort of blocks out, and that's more about other reasons, but it could be about trying to create a bit of shade. May not be, but I don't know. But basically, there are things like this. Sometimes I've even been known to put on headphones even when I'm not listening to any music. And I'm not listening to any music, but I'm trying to block out all external sounds. You're trying to stop best from perhaps, making yourself unwell. But this story, I get back to the story. Basically what happened, and this proves a brilliant point, is that this social worker, who helped me pick up my phone when I went missing back in November, from the police station, she basically told me the story that one occasion she took this severely autistic lady to Cannon Hall. I've never been to Cannon Hall. I believe it's very nice there, but I've never been there. But she did a bit of research to find out, where it'd be nice and quiet. I think this severely autistic lady like wandering around gardens, nice parkland like that. And she thought, well, it'd be a nice day out for the person I'm looking after. And she, I think, did her research, and she found out that they have a cafe there, a quiet cafe. And she thought, well, it'd be ideal. You could go in there, have a cup of tea, and it'd be just a nice, peaceful environment, right sort of place for the person that I'm looking after. Unbeknownst to the social worker and the severely autistic lady, is that there was some other people in there. There was, you'd expect that anyhow. You can't expect there not to be other people in there. But there was a mother and her baby. And I have noticed sometimes, baby crying can be painful at the best of times for most people, but I find sometimes even the sound of a baby crying even painful to my own ears. Not just, it's annoying, it's really, which most people would have that feeling. For me, it's even worse than that. I feel it's almost painful to hear a baby cry. And, you know, um, mother and her baby, we're not trying to do anything to cause any problems or anything. And of course, they're going to, a baby's going to do what it's going to do. And apparently, what happened is the social worker was sitting down at one table with the person who she was looking after. There was an elderly lady in front, how tables are arranged in cafes. An elderly lady sitting in front, from how it was best explained to me. And all of a sudden, the baby lets off. And then what happens is, of course, this sets off the autistic lady. And apparently what happened next sounds really horrific. She leans, the severely autistic lady leans forward and lunges her teeth into the back of the elderly lady's head. Right into that sort of area. And everybody's upset. The lady with her baby, the elderly lady who's effective, it would be upsetting for the elderly lady, but it was also upsetting for the autistic woman as well. Because you just had teeth being lunged into your head. That's quite scary. It's quite scary for the elderly lady. And of course, obviously after that, she says a lot of very nice, unnice and very not very kind things. She says them aimed at the autistic lady. And of course that upsets the autistic lady as well. And it's upsetting for everybody in that sort of situation if you look at it. And that's just because of noise. And it's what the brain does to you. And I could feel that change coming on to me on Tuesday. I could feel that I was not my normal self. My rational thinking had gone out the window. To illustrate the point, when I did finally go missing, I kept on thinking to myself, well, Bridget told me I should ring up the police. I kept on looking at my phone, and I didn't know what I was supposed to do with it. It's like, how am I supposed to operate this? I was walking along, I could remember I was looking at the phone, but I couldn't think to myself, well, how do I ring? How do I make a phone call on this? Now, yes, you could say, well, all mobile phones are complicated, but the thing is that I normally know how to do that. I normally know how to make, if I have to make a phone call, and I don't like talking on phones, as you know, but I know exactly how to do that. I know how to make a phone call. But I kept on looking at the phone as I was walking along, away from I was trying to get as away from the party as quickly as possible, right? Um, but I kept on looking at the phone and I was thinking, well, I don't know how to do this. And normally I would know how to do that. That's a sign that my brain was no longer functioning the way in which it should do. You know, I was no longer the person that I should be. I have had 2 panic attacks down at platform 1. Nobody's known how to deal with them. The first time it happened, I think somebody got Bob, because they suddenly realised that James is not his usual self. He's not, you know, because I was going into that sort of catatonic state whereby my brain is shutting down. It's basically stop working, you know, which is part of my condition. And anybody who doesn't understand things about me. And I am, of course, sensitive to just about everything. Anything can act as a trigger. Just why I get so obsessed with the concept of being compared against a severely autistic person, because I have my high days and I have my low days. I can be high functioning and I can be low functioning. You know this all too well, that just because somebody's labelled as being high functioning doesn't mean that they're high functioning all the time. And Tuesday was a good example of that. You know, what upset me yesterday is when I got back to my place, which is where I am now, obviously. He's not here at the moment. I know this because it'll probably turn up at some point in the next hour or so. When I got back, I lost it, you know. But the response wasn't, I'm very sorry, I apologise for having a really loud party. It wasn't that sort of response, which just made me even worse. You know, if somebody apologises, and that's fine. You know, if they acknowledge that what they did was wrong, even if they don't understand how my brain reacts, how I am, even if they don't understand all of that, even if that goes right over their head, just saying you're sorry makes all the difference, right? You know, it's like I'll say I'm sorry, or even apologise for things which I haven't even done. That's how bad it is. Whether I should or shouldn't do that, I don't know. A good example is yesterday, because on Tuesday, when the party was getting into full swing, and it didn't really start. I think it started about 6 or just before 6, right? But it didn't really start until, you know, the loud music, I don't think really started until after 7 o'clock, as far as I can remember. So, okay, people were starting to turn up at that point, starting to drink and everything. But I don't remember the level of loudness of music starting until way after 7 o'clock. I cannot remember what time I rang you, but you heard how loud it was. The whole street heard how loud it was. There's no getting away from it. I've got a questionnaire which has turned up today, and I duly intend to fill it in, because apparently it's about it's not. It's about. It's a general questionnaire. That there's things about maintenance. There's things about you know, other issues as well. But I genuinely, if there's a section, and probably you might have to help me with that because of my dyslexia. But I want to get across the point of such things about such behaviour that it's not acceptable. You know. But I remember that at just after 7 o'clock on Tuesday, I was taking part in a Zoom meeting online to do with a group that I am sort of a part of, and actually that would have given me a lot of joy, a lot of pleasure in doing that. Which is why I wanted to do that. And I thought, well, I haven't so far done this thing on a Tuesday. It would be nice for me to do that. It'd be nice for me. I tried to take part in the Zoom meeting after 7 o'clock. And my joy was taken by the loudness of the music. I didn't even have my windows open. That's how loud. None of my windows were open, and it was that loud. Even when I did try to do the Zoom meeting, I felt as though I couldn't continue because it was not only ruining things for myself, but it was ruining things for everybody else in the Zoom meeting. And they were trying to continue, they were trying to go on, but I felt as though I had to take myself out of the meeting. Not because of anything I'd done, far from it, but because of the actions of certain individuals who just don't care. And that's the attitude, Around here there are elderly people, there are other vulnerable people, there are people with children. And I just found the attitude on Tuesday was like this. It was like, and what makes it even worse is the fact that the person organising the party is somebody who has children themselves. They may not live with them. But I know that he has got children because I've seen them over the period that I've been living here. And I'm not talking about, this is where it gets confusing, I'm not talking about I'm not talking about this has only been in 6 months, or so I'm told. I'm talking about who has been here 20 years, the same amount of period as me. But I think they're sort of friends. Right. I mean, right. But it was the person upstairs who had the party. Okay. I don't cause any problems in this neighbourhood. I've lived here over something like 20 years. It's just hard, I should get some sort of board or something for living here for 20 years. I came to live in this area because when I was shown around 2 properties, I didn't like the first one, but I like this one, how it looks. You've been here, you've seen the environment. And for a lot of the time, it can be quite a nice place, but it only takes 1 or 2 individuals to ruin it for everybody else. And I don't like selfish people. I don't like people who only think of themselves and nobody else around them, and basically, this is their attitude. It's like, and if you don't like it, well, you can go and yeah. I don't even like doing that personally myself, but I don't like that sort of attitude. That sort of, you know, basically, I'm gonna have a good time, and to the rest of you, you may have kids, you may be an elderly person with a heart condition, or you may be a vulnerable person, but basically, you know, that's not how you create a good environment or a good community, by having people like that who think that basically, you know, whether that's here, whether it's a platform one, whether, wherever you consider to be community. I mean, one of the things that one of the good things which has come from this lockdown is the fact that people have been much more community spirited. People have been looking out for one another, and that's how it should be. It shouldn't be this, and that should not be tolerated by anybody. Whether that sort of behaviour, that sort of like basically. And sometimes I feel as though thinks that he rules the roost and that he is in charge of this area. It's not the council. You know, he thinks that rules the roost. And although there are times when I can get on well with him and he can be quite nice, and, you know, thing is that he can also do things which I think are like Tuesday, which was, I feel, done deliberately. Because he's always wanted me out of here. I've never said that, but it's true. He's even said to me in the past, why don't I go and live in a home? Why don't I go and live in sheltered accommodation? Because he knows that I struggle. But that's not his decision, okay? It's not his decision. It's not his decision on who does or does not live here. And even yesterday, when I got home and I lost it with him, he's never seen me do that before. Nobody's ever seen me lose it. But that's how upset I was. I got upset because of the fact that, I could have done myself some real harm on Tuesday. The intention was there for me to do that. When I went missing, as I've told the police, I intended at one point to do myself some real harm. The thing which stopped me is I got up and I started walking again. Probably the act of walking, because walking is one of the things that brings on the good chemicals in your brain, right? I think, which is why I've always had an enjoyment of walking. Probably the act of walking stopped me from doing myself some real harm. If I hadn't have done that, and I had sat on a bench for a long time when I went missing, and I was contemplating jumping in the water, because I'd had enough. I've had to deal with many different issues, not just around all of this, but I've got many other issues which are getting on top of me and got too much for me. And like in November, what people didn't understand, not even Stuart, when I had to tell him what happened, he didn't want to hear. He didn't want to hear that I was intent on harming myself, right? What people don't understand is that I have harmed myself. I do self-harm. Most of the time when I self-harm, it's not to end it. Okay? It is, done for other reasons, but there has been one or two occasions since I broke up with my ex-partner, when I have, I have been successful in trying to end it. And just because I'm still here and I'm still breathing, that doesn't mean that I didn't attempt, that I didn't try and do that. And November was like the last time when I actually had serious intentions of doing that. On Tuesday, the thought was going in my head about jumping in the water. I told the police this because I've had enough. I've tried to deal with too many different problems. Everybody thinks I have this wonderful life because I do the things I do. But it's like this, it's a bit like my home. From the outside, everything looks okay. You get inside, you see the reality. My life is like that, you know. People don't take me all that serious. And how many times do I have to come to the brink of me wanting to do it myself, real self-harm, before people take me serious? And start to realise I need help with many different issues. And as I've made clear to the police, Tuesday was triggered off by the excessive noise of the party. I had the guy who ran the party basically trying to put the blame on me yesterday. Here's what happened when I got back. Didn't want to say sorry. He didn't want to acknowledge that perhaps my going missing was due to him and his really loud party. It was witnessed. It was witnessed. Everybody, not just everybody on this road, will have heard it, because it could be heard right from the very bottom of the road. That's how loud it was. You heard it. You heard it on the phone. I have a friend who comes to see me every so often, who I've only known since the lockdown. Apparently, because I said to him, go around and actually hear it. So whether he did or not, I don't know. But he said to me that he did come round and he did hear it. The people on the Zoom meeting who are right across Kirklees, they all heard it, and you could see the discomfort in their faces. Because it was, because the thing is that you don't realise that now I'm talking to you from my webcam. What I don't realise is that, you can hear every last noise that goes from my webcam, including my washing machine, which is going off at the moment, unfortunately. But I could see in their faces how painful it was. I had to leave the, the Zoom meeting because it wasn't good for me. It wasn't good for the people in the Zoom meeting for me to continue. It wasn't my fault. I did nothing wrong. And basically, one of the things which was thrown at me yesterday, it's my fault, Like, right. I should have gone out and told them, said, can you turn down the sound? Now, I live alone. I don't know who's out there. Half the time I don't feel that that's my garden, right? It's supposed to be a shared garden. It's not supposed to be belonging and, belonging to one person, to me or to, right? It's meant to be shared garden because when I moved in, there was a dividing hedge, which all of these properties still have. So that effectively, all masonettes have, so that both people have their own garden space. Okay. Effectively, one of the first things he did 20 years ago is he got rid of the dividing hedge and he's claimed that it's his own space. He doesn't like the concept of my shed being there. Although he can't stop it from being there because I got planning permission. I think, he sees that as his space and his space alone for him and his friends. And although he has sort of said to me, oh, yeah, you can come out, you can sit out here, bring your friends, I don't feel that I have a garden space at all, And although I have sat out with his friends and his friends are very nice and I get on well, I hope I can say that, I get on well with them. The thing is, I don't really feel as though I have a garden space at all. I have a front door and that's it. I end up spending all of my time in here painting and doing the other artworks I'm doing. Now, he's basically said to me yesterday, oh, it's my fault. I should have gone out and told you to turn down the sound. Now, if by the time I got back late going into Wednesday evening, the party was still going. They may have killed the sound by that stage, but effectively there were still people outside. And I think if the police hadn't have told them to go, that's the situation. And I think if they hadn't have listened to those police, then the whole van would have turned up. Because obviously they're there the police at that point are there to protect me and make sure that I don't go missing again or I don't do any harm to myself. And as I indicated, it was due to the party that's why things went the way in which they went. Now, he doesn't want to take responsibility. He doesn't want to say sorry because he's not sorry. His attitude yesterday was, well, why don't you move? You have with both of us. The fact that I've been living throughout this lockdown with difficult situations, it's difficult for all of us. And I accept that. But and you've got people who think that basically, I've talked more and less about, but nevertheless, I've had to deal with that. Obviously, but why don't whether I want to go or not should be my decision. I shouldn't feel as though I'm going to be intimidated until I do go. That's not an acceptable situation anywhere. Are there going to be more loud parties because he now knows that affects me? Because he knows he knows things about me because obviously I've talked with him, right? He knows I've got autism. He may or may not, I'm not too sure, have an understanding of what that is or how it affects me, but he knows I'm a vulnerable person. You know, hope this can be seen, but obviously, yeah, I've had that for a couple of years. That's a safe place as skiing. And whereas sometimes, this is where it becomes difficult because sometimes you can see me as a nice person and I can get on with him, but there are things which happen which, like the business about the shed. I got planning permission for the shed. The council gave me planning permission. It shouldn't be. He put up such a fuss about that one. He didn't get planning permission for his shed, and effectively it's an illegal structure, whereas I got planning permission for mine. But I don't really feel as I can actually, even when it's nice weather like this, I don't feel as I can literally sit out in the garden because it's not my garden. It's supposed to be a shared garden, it's supposed to be a shared space. But I don't feel as though I have any ownership over that because effectively he's taken over that. He won't say that, he won't declare that. Effectively, on one occasion, he invited me outside when he'd had a few drinks, and he started going on about buying up my place. About, oh, I'll help you. I'll help you buy up your place. Then I'll give you a nice small little amount of money, and you can go and live in sheltered accommodation. And that was the attitude. We'll get solicitors and we'll get this all sorted because you've been living there for a long time. You'll get a nice big discount. And I feel as though I've always been under that sort of threat that you either do one. It's not put like that, right? It's never put like that. But I've always felt as though in a sort of like a nicer way, it's been sort of implied. The business about the drainage system. And I feel as though I just want to get all this off my chest because I think I know I tend to go off on a tangent. But the business about the drains, and it happens every year, at the same time every year, I think he puts something down the toilets so that basically it clogs up the system. So as to get me into trouble and make it look as though, oh, well, I'm not, I'm putting things down the toilet when I'm not. So then the council ended up coming out and he asked me to sort that out because he would be charged for that. If he has bought up his own place, he knows that he would be charged for them to come out and do that. But nevertheless, so that it makes it look as though I'm doing these things, but I'm not. But this is what I've been up against. And most of the time, I don't feel as I can actually get. I use my shed for storage. I don't use it how I had originally intended it for, which was perhaps as a proper space which I could work in. Because I know I'm being watched. A good example of that is during the lockdown, which of course is sort of coming to an end. But during the lockdown, when I started work on the dioramas, I went outside because obviously you have to do that with when you're working on the polystyrene, when you're cutting into it with hot blade because of the fumes. You have to work outside because there would be all those fumes coming off of the polystyrene. And I went up to what I thought was okay, his table, which he quite happily, this is where it's the double standard. It's like living with Wurzel Gummidge, for goodness sake. You don't know don't know if he's going to be happy or not. This is the thing, and I live under that all of the time. But it's like 1 minute he's saying, "Oh yeah, come on, bring your friends," be in the garden. Next minute, he'd do something which will make you feel, well, no, hang on, this isn't my space at all. I don't feel as though I have any ownership of this. I literally come home sometimes and I lock the door and I don't want to go out until the next day. That's how bad it is. Well, when I was going out and I was working on the polystyrene out in the fresh air, I then noticed that a week or so later, or 2 weeks later, he's deciding that he's going to do the table. He's going to varnish it after all this time. Now you could say, well, that's just coincidental, but to me it feels, whether this is all inside my head or not, it feels as though he's doing that because it's sort of like saying, well, no, I don't want you in my space. I don't want you in my space. And that's the message. The day when you came round to drop off the shopping, he was sitting there. He does that quite a lot. Now, yes, of course, nice day and everything, but I've caught him actually watching me on occasions. There was one time last year when I didn't even know he was just sitting there. Well, not sitting there, but he was standing by his shed door and he was watching me putting stuff into my shed. I didn't even know he was there, and then he started talking to me. And that's how it is. But honestly, if you have to have police come round to tell partygoers at that time of night to basically, end it, do you honestly think that a guy like myself, who my brain was starting to change on Tuesday, my brain was, I was going into what I would consider to be a catatonic state. I could feel that coming on me because it has a physical effect. Do you honestly think that I could have gone out into that space where I don't know who's out there, they've been drinking, I'm on my own, tell them to turn the sound down, and not know if I'm going to be physically or verbally attacked? Now, whereas that might not have happened, it's just, for me, that's a scary situation. And to feel that petrified that I can't go out and do that, to say, well, it's your fault, it's your fault. I'm not going to take responsibility. I'm not going to say that I'm sorry, apologize, and basically, that's the attitude coming towards me. And then what I had as I was going in my house after I'd gotten really upset, and it takes a lot to upset me. It takes a lot for me to go into a bad state like that. But I'd lost it because I'd been put in a vulnerable situation on Tuesday, whereby I was, out. I was in the dark. My brain was not working how it should have been working. I could have done anything to myself. At one point, I was walking along a part of a canal which was virtually almost fallen in. It was dark. Some of these canal paths are not best looked after. Some of them are, and some of them are not. Some of them are virtually almost dirt tracks where the bank is virtually almost falling into the water. What if I had fallen in the water? Nobody would have known where I was. My phone was switched off because obviously I wasn't thinking straight and I was upset. I was in a distressed state. How would he have felt if next minute, they're dragging my, they're looking for me, which they were. The police were looking for me. But if I had have died for tragic circumstances due to him and his, what I consider out of the hand party, where there seemed to be tons of people turning up, much more than what, when he has his friends round. His friends are, I've sat out with his friends, they're okay, I'm okay with that. But the amount of people which turned up on Tuesday was ridiculous. And I felt threatened by it, and the threat doesn't have to be because of, it's just something about, how my brain works, and that was the situation. And I don't think that it's acceptable to be treated like this. I don't cause anybody any harm. I never have. The only time when you'll see the police on my doorstep is because I've gone missing, right? You don't see the police on my doorstep because I've been a nuisance to the neighbours or have done anybody any harm. I may not be understood by people and people don't understand certain things about me or about, that's fine, but I don't cause any problems and I shouldn't be treated in this way by anybody. I don't deserve it and it's not acceptable. And, that's how things are. I think I've said everything I wanted to say, but I have a right, just like anybody else, to to be treated good by those around me, to not feel as I'm at threat or at risk. I have a right to get a good night's sleep. Considering that sleep for me at the best of times is not good because of the fact that on top of anything else, I have my night terrors. My sleep can be interrupted from things like that. It's a scary time for me because obviously I don't know if I've got diabetes, which obviously until I've been properly tested, I won't know. And I'm trying to deal with many different other issues other than this. But I shouldn't be treated in such a bad way by anybody, especially when I haven't done any harm to anybody. I don't, I go to bed, I'm boring. I admit it, I'm a boring person. I may be excited in terms of in other ways, but I live a very boring lifestyle. People imagined all sorts of things about me. You know, I'd love him to come in here. Try and find them if you can. Where is this great crop of green plants that you think are in here, you idiot? And that's put it politely. But it's like, I live a boring life. For goodness sake, people have these strange imaginings about me, and it's like, I get excited about painting. I get excited about things which people would find boring. I mean, to other people, that those things would be interesting, exciting, what have you. But to some people, they would find that that it's about what's going on inside their head, not what's the reality. But I don't deserve to be treated badly. I don't cause any problems towards anybody. I don't, I'm not nasty towards anybody. I keep myself to myself. And, you know, you may not understand, people may not understand things about me, and that's fine. May have, don't, you know, that's fine, but nobody should ever be treated badly, no matter who you are. Anyone I get, you know me. I mean, I try to get on with everybody down at platform one. I'm very well liked. Not just there, but in the other places where I go, and that's not me showing off. But I don't deserve any of this. I don't deserve to be treated in this way by anybody. No matter what people think of me, I've heard comments about the way in which I talk. I can't help the way in which I talk. It's not put on, it's just the way in which I talk. I don't put on this accent for, it's not put on. It's just my natural way of talking. Or perhaps they're jealous of me because of the fact that I create art. And they can't do that. I've even had comments being about that. Or because they think that I'm living some sort of wonderful life when I'm not. Not when I'm not when I'm sleeping at night with a light on. I'm sleeping at night with a light on because of the fact that I think that some invisible force is going to attack me in my home. I'm not talking about a mouse. I'm talking about something, because I think I've heard voices in my home. I think I've had the sort of night terrors. I've been through things in my life which I shouldn't have gone through in my life. Unpleasant and unhappy situations, which has affected my mental health. Things like being physically assaulted, probably drugged and physically assaulted, I should say, because the person who attacked me, I think, spiked my drink. Things like the business around my ex-partner, and other traumatic experiences I've been through, like a lot of people. So anybody who believes in the wider streams that I somehow live this wonderful life. They're not on the same planet as everybody else. I may well be able to do the things which I can do. But to be honest, if I didn't do those things, that's what stops me from doing bad things. Nothing else. By having friends in my life, by going to the groups I go to, by creating art, by going walking, by having all of those things that stops me from doing stupid stuff to myself. Maybe other people should see this video. I know, sorry, it's gone on a long time. But maybe I'm just, one of the things which went through my head on Tuesday when I was out alone is I'm fed up of the way in which I'm treated by people. I'm fed up of that. I don't deserve to be treated badly by anybody. It doesn't matter where it is, whether it's here, whether it's at Platform 1. I'm not saying, but you get my picture. It doesn't matter where I go. I shouldn't be treated. And yes, people may not understand things about me and may not understand. There may be misunderstandings about the way in which I behave. But I shouldn't be treated badly by anybody. Nobody should. Nobody should ever be treated badly for the way in which they are. And that's a statement I would say about me, about anybody. To me, if you treat somebody badly for the way in which for the way in which they are, that's bullying. That's victimization. That's unacceptable. You can hide behind that, and you can sort of like say, "Oh well, no, it's not that." You can try. The coward, like the coward yesterday, who wouldn't take responsibility that he may not have known that I went missing. More than obvious, he didn't know because of the way in which he was talking to me. But he may have found it a bit odd that all of a sudden his party goers were being told to go by the police. But to me, that's an act of a coward. To actually, to literally in front of his two of his friends, he literally, one of them was acknowledging the fact that I was angry. Was actually noticing that I was talking about a panic attack that had been brought on, been induced by the loudness of the music. And I made it clear that I wasn't angry with them. I made it clear that my anger was about him because it was him who had arranged that. Right? It's his home. If he can come at 8 o'clock in the evening and have a go at me for having my washing machine on because he's trying to get to sleep because he's wanting to get up early because he's got to go to work early in the morning. And I turned off my washing machine at 8 o'clock after that. And I have stopped having my washing machine on that late. Well, it's not late, but obviously, he's trying to get, if he's got to be out the door after 5 o'clock in the morning, then it's late to him. I will work with people and I will try to see them both ways, right? But all of that, this is perhaps where I just lost it because the fact that, you've had a go at me for my washing machine, but then you have a party which is about 56 times worse than a washing machine. Nobody can hear my washing machine from the end of the road, but you could hear his party from the end of the road on Tuesday. That's how bad it was. You witnessed it, and many others. I feel as though perhaps that was being done deliberately so that, I'll pack my bags and I'll go. That was the message. It wasn't, oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. It won't happen again. We've always gotten on well. And all of this, which no doubt, he hides behind. But in life, whenever we do something wrong, whether we intend to or not, we should apologize. And I didn't get that yesterday. That wasn't the attitude. It wasn't the acknowledgement of what had happened. Or what, and I didn't get a chance to say to him, as I should have said, is I was in a dangerous situation on Tuesday evening because I came across some guys and I don't know if they were going to attack me or not. I was not in my thinking straight. So I was in quite a scary situation. They could see that I wasn't, I didn't know what they were going to do to me. It was dark. I didn't even say that to the police, but I should have done. I apologize that this is a long video, over an hour, but hopefully it gets across a lot of the points. And get off my chest what I wanted to say and how I felt about all of this. Yeah. And that's important. I need to get that off my chest. I need to sort of get off my chest. The letter which I was going to write, I'll tell you about this, is I was going to write him a letter and I was going to address certain issues and get across my points. Whether that's advisable or not, I don't know. But perhaps that was my thoughts. Anyhow, I'll leave it at this. I won't try and go on any longer. But sometimes when I think that I've had my laptop on too loud, I will turn down the sound because I think about those people around me. I don't know if how loud my laptop can get, but that's how I do things. A community should always think of everyone, not just be there for one person, not just exist for one person, like the Lord of the Manor, which is, I think, is how mentally he sees himself. You know, just like the reason why Gavin, and I'll leave it at this, Gavin had to leave Platform 1 because of the way in which Gavin made everybody around him life very uncomfortable. Even going to the toilet was like people just didn't want to do that. They had to, but they, because he saw that workshop, as being his space, being his domain, and you can't come in here or you can't touch those tools. It's got, any community's got to be a happy community for everybody, not just living under some sort of dictatorship. Where if you don't knuckle down, then you're going to know about it. I think the questionnaire which I will hopefully fill in, doesn't just talk about tenants. It also talks about share leases, or which I've always been led to believe is the case with that it's important that they know, and not just on that, but on other issues as well. That's all I want to say. I apologise for it going on for too long.